just a quick recap on what you can and can't do surcharging wise. The rules around surcharging are laid out very clearly in the package travel regulations. So if you're not selling packages, then this stuff wouldn't apply. But if you are selling packages, then it would. There are three very clear reasons when you're allowed to surcharge. It's either because of an increase in related taxes, an increase in fuel price like we're experiencing right now, or an increase in the exchange rate that would directly affect the product that you're selling. But there's lots of other caveats that you really need to be aware of. And just summarize them on screen here. So the ones in orange, they are package travel regulations requirements. And so the first thing I'll point to is that your terms and conditions must give you the permission to surcharge. So you can't do that without your contract saying you're allowed to do that, fairly obviously. But what the package travel regulations also say is if you want the permission in your T's and C's to surcharge and increase the prices when things go against your way, the fuel price goes up, etc., then you must also have a term in your terms and conditions that offers a reduction in price when it goes in your favor. And so certainly when this was a new addition in the 2018 package travel regulations, and I know a lot of companies decided not to bother because they didn't want the downside liability of having, being open to customer claims and that sort of thing. So that's the first thing you have to be aware of. You do have to have permission in your terms. Second thing is you're only allowed to surcharge up to 8% of the price that you of the price of the package that you sold. Anything more than 8%, the customer has an instant right to cancel with a full refund and no administration fees. So you have a very clear limit on what you can add to the price once the contract has been signed. Third point in orange is that you aren't allowed to impose any surcharging less than 20 days before departure. So you've got to, anything within that window you have to absorb fully. You always, of course, have the ability to refund the customer in full, but I'm guessing within 20 days that would come at a cost to you. And then the final point I'll just mention before guys jump in if I've missed anything, and it's not actually in the package travel regulations, but it's in the ABTA Code of Conduct. So if you're an ABTA member, you as an ABTA member have to absorb the first 2% of any increase. So that's not a legal obligation, but it's an ABTA membership rule, if you like. Firstly, I'll pause there. Anything I've missed? Any sort of thoughts or views on surcharging generally? Is it something that we think we'll see more of, or are you seeing it already amongst your customers?
A few questions over the past couple of weeks, particularly with some of the airlines coming out and announcing what they have. I guess it scares some of the tour operators quite rightly, because you're already working on tight margins. Future bookings are rolled off the back of a percentage of refund credit notes. They're not that liquid in that sense, and therefore to be faced with potential charges coming your way, quite rightly, that the instant reaction is, well, how do we protect ourselves against this? Can we pass it on? But as you said, Martin, the conversation quickly becomes, well, actually, there's some other things attached to this, and it would mean you need to go the other way. And it really generally changes the mind of most tour operators that we've spoken to, because it's quite cumbersome and comes with many other things attached that just don't make it just not work really in reality.
Yes.
I'll show my age, but 80s and 90s, it was very clear. A lot of tour operators gave the no surcharge guarantee. Now I think a lot of that has disappeared now. But I think the point around terms and conditions is so important to check that you actually have the ability to do that in the first place. Because if if they've not been reviewed for a long time or reviewed properly, then you may not even have the ability to do that anyway. I was also going to wonder about supplier contracts as well, whether this, how much you are protected as a business as well with the contract you have in place with your supplier. I know we've heard a lot from lawyers over the years to make sure you have a proper written agreement in place between you and your suppliers. But I think that's another thing that probably needs to be checked to see how protected you are on that side.
And in the Emirates example you gave before, Adam, would you say it's normal that the airline will give you a window, and you may find that you do have a window of opportunity to ticket? Clearly, there's a cash outflow that you were hoping to push off for another day, but you may be able to lock in the price before the surcharges kick in, or is it normally they've made a decision and it's too late by then, do you think?
With Emirates, it was the general increase across the board. So they gave you, it was fair warning. I'd only seen it quite late in the day, so it doesn't give you the greatest degree of flexibility. And I think these businesses are reacting to, fast changing environment. So they probably don't have the ability in the first place due to the circumstances to give you that much warning. But you should get some warning, a level of warning to some degree, but it's still you need to react quite quickly, I would have thought.
Yes.